offer my greeting. Good morning to our friends in North and South America. Good afternoon to our friends in the UK and Europe. Good early evening to our friends in Dubai, the Arab states, and India. Good evening to our friends in Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, and Australia. Good to see you. Hope you're all well. We have some questions, JC.
Yes, Prajan, we do. Question 1, dear Ajahn. Are the 5 spiritual powers and 5 faculties one and the same? Faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. Thank you.
So in one important list of Dhammas mentioned by Lord Buddha, the Bodhipakkhiya Dhammas, the 37 wings to awakening, this list of 5 is repeated. So it's mentioned twice. It's mentioned the first time as the 5 faculties, and it's mentioned the second time as the 5 spiritual powers. So the way I understand that is for Lord Buddha to have mentioned it twice, it's obviously important. I think the thing to understand is that these faculties, we have to recognize that we have these faculties. That's the first thing. Become mindful of what they are, because they're not actually powers in the beginning. They're faculties. So, for example, faith. It seems to be the case that human beings, healthy human beings, need to have faith in something. And if they don't put it in the right place, they'll end up having faith in unskillful things. If they don't have faith in anything at all, they'll probably end up becoming hedonistic, get into drugs, get into a lot of sex, pornography, self-destructive behavior, because they don't believe in anything. So normally, people who have no faith in karma, rebirth, other worlds, consequences of actions, quite common for those people to not be particularly virtuous if they don't think there's any consequences. And if they think that the point of life is to squeeze as much selfish pleasure as you can. And unfortunately, there are more and more numbers of people who have a worldview like that these days. And that's the age we're living in. But there are still those with what they good imprints, good impressions, good karmas from past lives, coming from good destinations, who have a kind of a moral compass, possibly had good parenting or some good mentors. And so you can think of the example of what people put faith in these days in the social media kind of, if you just have a look at what happens. So there's this word influencers. People follow influencers, and so that's a huge thing. The phenomenon of influencers and trendsetters and bloggers and people talking about stuff, but often talking about entertainment, sensuality, food, travel, and not particularly much depth. And then, maybe less so now, but when I was a teenager, you'd have posters on your wall of your favorite pop stars. And these days, I guess people have them as screensavers, or or they just look at them on Instagram or their Facebook whenever they want to. So if we don't put faith in the right place, it can be not necessarily a wholesome thing. We can have faith in the wrong thing. Even like the dark arts, the dark occult, the black arts, people can develop faith in entities that are harmful if they believe that they bring short-term benefit. So in Northeast Thailand, until recently, there was a lot of blood sacrifice. There still is in India and Nepal. blood sacrifice to certain deities, believing that if you offer the fresh blood of a sacrificed being, that another entity will give you some kind of a blessing. So as you can see, if one has faith in something like that, we're going to make a lot of bad karma. And as Buddhists, we understand that the kind of karmas that we create, we have to, there's no escaping it. There's no entity in heaven or in the abyss that can protect you from your karma. This is a part of right view. If you've harmed another being and caused another being pain, if you, in your future birth and later in this life, things will be coming towards you that will cause you pain. But this is why we have faith in different things. As Buddhists, we have faith in generosity, we have faith in virtue, we have faith in loving kindness as being, the Lord Buddha describes metta as the most powerful weapon. It's a very interesting use of the term. The most powerful weapon is loving kindness. The image comes up of Lord Buddha recently enlightened under the Bodhi tree. Mara's armies rally with might and throwing all sorts of weapons at him, and when they hit his purified aura full of metta, they turn to flowers. It's like his metta, because of his metta and purity, enormous merits, none of those weapons could harm him. So we have to have faith in the right thing. And then Lord Buddha does explain what skillful view is, right view. So belief in karma is part of skillful view. Belief in rebirth is part of skillful view. And ultimate right view is not self, emptiness, but we have to practice. We have to be, Luang Por Anand describes the path as becoming truly human first. That's the 5 precepts. Becoming like a deva, that's keeping 8 precepts sometimes, meditating, practicing forgiveness, practicing metta, and having a mind like a deva is the foundation for insight. I once asked Ajahn Anand, can devas get enlightened? He looked at me and he said, only devas get enlightened. I say, oh, what do you mean by that? He said, well, the people who get enlightened have minds like devas. And yes, then it stands to reason that some devas can also get enlightened if they have the right faculties. Speaking of the faculties. So the next one, satta virya, energy. Again, there's all sorts of energies, right? So we have what kind of energy is banging around in our minds. This is a thing. The first thing is to become mindful of this faculty. There's good energy, there's bad energy, right? Good vibes, bad vibes. There's kusala and akusala, and there's neutral. So we want to give rise, we want to recognize that there's a very wonderful phrase, actually my favorite list of dhammas, because it covers everything and it's so succinct and so round and full and simple. Lord Buddha said after his enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, he was contemplating for 7 weeks afterwards, and he come out of a week of liberation, and he was in awe about what he'd attained, what he'd discovered. And he was like, how is this even possible? Because he recognized that it was difficult to penetrate. Beings are attached to perceiving the world in terms of self and others. And, in that time, theistic religions, even kind of praying to a Godhead, wanting to realize Atman, the higher self, the ultimate self. Everything was defined in terms of self, and a pure self, and become one with the higher self, etc., etc. And what he penetrated into was not self, and something higher than any kind of self, any kind of deity or God, and he recognized that that's a difficult thing to perceive and experience and realize. Then he had the insight, these 5 faculties, when made into powers, lead to the deathless and merge in the deathless. That means nibbana. A really wonderful phrase, and it's a really important thing to remember, because we can study a lot of sutras, you can study different Buddhist traditions. I think to get a Gelugpa Geshe degree these days takes 14 or 18 years. They keep extending the amount of time to get your Geshe degree. And then I'm not criticizing that. There's a lot of Dhamma to study. And those people are on the bodhisattva path and they want the analytical knowledges. When they become Buddhas, they have to create extraordinary intelligence. The wonderful thing about the Theravada is, in my opinion, the simplicity of it. Lord Buddha basically says that these 5 things, when cultivated, will lead to your liberation. So energy, how do we make the faculty of energy a spiritual power? So this is when we practice generosity. We practice generosity, it creates good karma. You feel good. You've done something generous, you have a good feeling. I'm about to, on Friday, make a transfer to Nepal with the help of my helper to help some disabled kids and orphans in Lalitpur. Do that a couple of times a year. It just feels nice to help kids who need help and support people who are helping them. So do that 3 or 4 times a year. And so we are generous, and then we rejoice in our generosity, feel good about it. There's certain types of pleasure the Lord Buddha praises. It's rejoicing in your good activities. Chakanusati is a type of pleasure allowed by the Buddha. We don't create a vain sense of self out of it. We just acknowledge this was a good thing to do. I feel really good about having done that good thing. The other thing, of course, is your ethical precepts. So when you keep your ethical precepts, you're not kind of, when kilesa comes up and it wants to do this and it wants to do that, and you don't do it, yeah, sometimes you have to patiently endure with some unpleasant energies because they're not getting acted out. But what's happening is those negative qualities are decreasing. And because you have freedom of remorse, you didn't actually do anything wrong. You start to get a lovely sense of self-esteem and resilient well-being. It's like, you're a good person. And then other people criticize you. It's like, okay, well, that's their problem. I know I'm a nice guy. That person might have some really serious issues, some projections, whatever, some difficult karma we might have had in the past life or earlier in this life. They really don't like me. But at the end of the day, when I put my head on the pillow, I know I'm a nice guy. I'm happy to lie down with myself. So we do things like, when you keep your ethical precepts as strictly as you can. We understand it's a training. So in the beginning, we might have to reflect on the drawbacks of what happens when we don't keep them. Just keep paying attention. What happens when you do keep them? What happens when you break them? The kilesas are very sneaky and tricky. They'll lie to you. Just do it once, you'll feel better. You do it, you don't feel better. You're like, oh, normally. So, and then on the foundation of being generous and ethical, the freedom of remorse, knowing that you're a good person, feeling some wholesome sense of skillful self-esteem, well-being. Then we have our mental cultivations. We practice meditation, and that gives rise to very different, good, nice, clean energy. When you restrain the mind from obsessing about the future and the past, and you train the mind to be with the present moment, more energy arises. Get some kanika samadhi, some neighborhood concentration. You get these periods of peacefulness, and then good energy arises in the mind. So when you don't go hanging around places, keep the 5 precepts. You're not going to be going to many pubs or many nightclubs or discotheques anymore, right? There's a lot of interesting energies around in those places, and probably don't go and see too many violent movies or scary movies. And you might not play violent computer games anymore. It's like, you see that it affects the mind. So it's like you're not exposing the mind to bad energy. You're giving rise to good energy. And it's very interesting, isn't it? Like, I think even like animals can feel when somebody's a nice person and has good energy. They kind of draw towards them. And similarly, somebody's coming and they don't like them, the dogs all bark. What's with that person? They don't trust them. And it's interesting when the monks go on alms round in the village. Sometimes a new layperson comes and wants to follow on the alms round and follows behind the monks, and the dogs all bark at the new layperson. Like, there's one dog that barks at the monks too, every day for 10 years. I don't know what I did to that dog in a past life, but barks his head off every morning. The lay people like it because then they know, okay, then the monks are coming because that dog's barking again. So the arising of energy, good energy, very important thing to understand. is part of what becomes samadhi, the next of the five powers. Good energy is what makes it possible for the mind to collect into even better energy, purer energy, right collectedness, right? I mean, you have, if you don't have much energy, the mind isn't going to have a very high vibration. It's not going to resonate with these more pure energies. It's not going to incline to that which is higher. The Lord Buddha, when talking about samadhi, says the peaceful mind is the most refined of happiness. So,เป็นความสุขยิ่งสุด เป็นความสุขประณีตที่สุด in Thai. So it's the most refined form of pleasure, peacefulness. And obviously there's different levels of peacefulness. There's the peacefulness that comes from some samadhi. There's a peacefulness that's even more superior that comes from a purified mind, which is even more pleasurable. And so that's the thing about being generous, being ethical, being diligent in your daily practice. Good energy arises that can become samadhi, right collectedness. Similarly, the bad energies will tend to damage the purer energy. They kind of have a bit of a corrosive influence. Many people probably had the experience of doing a retreat, feeling great, feeling bright, going back to work, getting busy, issues at work, some dramas, some gossip, some stuff, and then that sense of the good energy is gone after a few days. I mean, people have that experience. So it's like the energies that we associate with also affect us. But when we have more mindfulness and more metta, it takes some years to become resilient. Those energies affect us less. We can maintain a center, have loving kindness, even when you're in some spaces with not good energy. Wisdom. So again, talking about skillful and unskillful. So you can have an unskillful type of concentration. So suppose you decide you want to go and kill some deer or catch some fish, and people need to eat. I understand that, but Lord Buddha is explaining that we live in a karmic world, and what you do to other beings, you will experience. So if you don't want to have your life cut short, and if you don't want to die with a lot of painful feelings, we don't torture other beings. And but it takes quite a bit of concentration, doesn't it? Similarly, what if you want to be a cyber hacker or a scammer? Okay, you need to have some pretty remarkable capacity to focus and pay attention. Learn coding, learn how to crack things, learn how to be deceptive. All of that is types of concentration, are very unwholesome, very unskillful. Deceive and be deceived. So we train ourselves to focus on that which is skillful. Lord Buddha says that breath meditation is a crown jewel of the meditation object. So breath, concentrating on the breath, is a skillful thing to do. What kind of entertainment do we give our intention to? I understand that we can't just chant and read Dhamma books all day, all night, but in terms of your entertainment, you can look at stuff which is related, which is also interesting. Documentaries about pilgrimages or Buddhist history or Buddhist art or about monasteries, and there's all sorts of stuff one can watch which is interesting but not unwholesome. So the wisdom, real wisdom, is seeing the three characteristics: dukkha, unsatisfactoriness; anicca, impermanence; and anatta, not self. That's, you want to know what wisdom is, panya, the last of those five spiritual faculties. A mind which has good quality of mindfulness, that's what it sees. Mindfulness is sometimes translated as truth discerning awareness. So if you want to know if your mindfulness is good, you have a good quality of mindfulness, can you see arising and ceasing? Do you understand that it's a body and feelings and mind states arising and ceasing? How much of a sense of self is there? And because really good mindfulness sees that self views the convention, but in moment to moment, it's feelings arising and staying for some time and ceasing, mind states arising and staying for some time and ceasing. So yes, there's things that we can do to cultivate wisdom. 3 types of 3 ways to develop wisdom is the listening to Dhamma discourses or reading Dhamma books and then contemplating deeply. Does that make sense? Do I believe that? Is it sound? If it makes sense, then we develop some conviction. And then through our meditation, we develop a deeper level of insight. Sutta Maya Panya, Bhavana Maya Panya, Chitta Maya Panya, 3 ways of developing wisdom. So we consciously develop wisdom. And so Lord Buddha explains that we had faith in the right things, faith in Lord Buddha, faith in the path of practice, faith in your ability, faith in the meditation object, all the good things to faith in good deeds bring great consequences for ourselves and others. Faith in all those good things. Keeping your ethical precepts, being generous, good energy arises. We apply that energy to trying to maintain our mindfulness consistently. If we can maintain our mindfulness consistently, as everybody knows, Ajahn actually recommends meditating a couple of times a day or 3 times a day if possible. Sharpen that mindfulness, clarify that mindfulness a couple of times a day. It doesn't have to be sitting. It can be like doing a session of chanting. It can be listening to a Dhamma talk, but like you want to be aiming for doing a couple of sessions a day where you generate more clarity, more presence of mind. Then you're going to give rise to some samadhi moments and periods of collectedness, coolness, having a sense of calm and centeredness. Doing retreats when you can, and experience some deeper levels of samadhi, some more peacefulness. And then, yes, contemplating wisely, anicca, dukkha, anatta. These 5 powers lead to the deathless and merge in the deathless. I wish you all much success in your cultivation of the 5 spiritual powers. Ajahn Sumedho used to look at this list when he was at Wat Pah Pong as a junior monk. And he was seeing, are they in balance? Are they balanced? It's like sometimes if there's suffering, you can ask yourself, which of the 5 spiritual powers are lacking here? What's not balanced? So nice kind of a mantra, sattha, virya, sati, samadhi, panya. Which ones are strong? Which ones are weak? Which ones do I need to cultivate more?
Question 2. What is the best way to dedicate merits to a sick and/or dying friend? Thank you, Ajahn.
Yeah. So there's various ways to make punya, good karma. We were talking just before about the generosity, being giving of things. One important thing to understand about dedicating merit is the mind of the person dedicating the merit actually needs to be a little bit peaceful. So you can go out and buy a ton of fish at the markets and go and release those fish. But if you were kind of scattered and restless and didn't actually think much about it, you said, okay, my intention is to dedicate the merit to this person, and you go and you get busy with your activity and you forget to actually collect your mind, really pay attention to the intention, and then really dedicate that merit, then that person that you're doing things in the name of may not receive much merit. One of the best times to dedicate merit is after meditation, because the mind is a little more collected. So, and also when you are doing a generous deed, you think of the generous deed afterwards, make your mind glad, rejoice in having done that deed, and then really deliberately dedicate the merit to that person. And probably what happens is some of your own happiness, some of your own well-being, is some of the good energy in your mind is what gets transferred to that person, particularly if you have a close karmic connection. So parents, relatives, teachers, neighbors, pets, if you really love your pet and you have had a lot of close contact, the pet can probably receive some of the merit that you dedicate to them. So if they're sick or approaching the end of their life, they have shorter lifespans than most humans. So we've all had that experience of having a pet pass away. So we make the mind peaceful as we can. And then after that, I dedicate the merit of this to this being. And with the dying process in particular, we can make certain aspirations. I dedicate merit to this being. May they have as little pain as possible. If their person has to have some pain, normally they do. Normally there is. and may they maintain clarity, sense of inner calm. And then, of course, may they attain to the most auspicious rebirth. That's another important aspect to the dedications of merits to people who are unwell or approaching death. So, but actually really thinking about what you've done, acknowledging that it was meritorious, and then really consciously dedicating that merit. And sometimes the prayers help. The words, getting the words right can help. So may this person receive the benefits of this act, and may they have as little suffering as possible. Whatever suffering they do have, may they maintain clarity and some peace. May they have the most auspicious rebirth and advance on the path towards no more rebirths. All of the various things, that we also make dedications and aspirations for oneself. May I be well, may I be happy, may I always meet with true Buddha Dhamma, wisdom teachings, well-practiced practitioners, good teachers of the pure Dhamma. May I be born in a suitable place to practice, and may I have the inclination to practice. When I meet with the opportunities to practice, may I practice. It can even be more forceful. Dedicate merit to your future lives. I remember when I was an anagarika, an 8th preceptor in Wat Nanachad, and 70-80% of me didn't want to be a monk. I was just kind of, oh God, it's going to be so hard. All these rules, the hard floor, the mosquitoes, the one meal, the cracked feet, the stones on the feet, no mattress, cold water showers. Coming from a middle-class Australian life, I was like, oh God, really? Do we really have to do this? And then there was the awareness that I really felt that I had prayed in many lives to be right where I was. And although most of me wanted to walk away and go back to the beach, go to the movies or whatever else, there was a part of me that knew this is the result of prayer. This is a result of aspiration. See all these people putting food in the monks' bowls, these old ladies that kneel down and put sticky rice in the bowls, and they hold their sticky rice container to the top of their heads, and many of them are making a wish. May I be reborn in a situation where I can practice, advance towards liberation. For myself, there was the awareness that I did that in the past, and that's why I'm here now. So I can't really walk away now, even though I want to. So we make powerful aspirations for our own benefit in the future. May I meet opportunities to practice, and when I meet with those opportunities, may I practice. I will practice and be more resolute. May I meet with opportunities to practice, and when I meet with those opportunities, I resolve that I will practice. Sadhu. We have to kick the butt of our future lives with a lot of powerful aspirational prayers now. I'm grateful to some of my past lives.
We are grateful to your past life too.
Thank you.
Question 3, dear Ajahn, do you have any advice for dealing with significant physical discomfort without giving into sensuality as a means of distraction? I know I should try to be mindful and equanimous, but this becomes difficult as the severity of discomfort increases. Thank you.
I think, and yes, for lay people, it's difficult. I mean, in this day and age, you can order anything on your mobile phone, and if you live in a city, have the exact kind of food you want delivered to your door. And obviously, budget is an issue, but within reason, you can go down to the 7-Eleven and get some pretty amazing snacks, and pick up your phone, and the whole world of entertainment and distraction is there. So it's hard. It is hard to restrain the amount of sensuality that's available to modern people. I think one of the best ways to approach it is to have yourself a schedule and set yourself like a minimum amount of practice. Because when you have a schedule and you set yourself a minimum, it's like what you do outside of that schedule, yeah, okay. But you've got to do a certain number of things, and you have to be quite fierce with yourself. It's like, okay, you can eat the ice cream, and but you're coming home and doing your evening chanting, right? It's like, it's just inserting into the day periods where you're doing skillful and wholesome things, so that you're not spending your whole life. And I know people are busy with work as well, but you're not spending all of your spare time with entertainment, sensuality, and distraction. So it's like, get up in the morning, wash your face, brush your teeth, meditate. Okay, it's not much sensuality happening there, but I mean, the sensual thing, right, is like press snooze, sleep more, sleep more. No, get up, go to bed earlier. When the alarm goes, get up, sit, and then okay, you can have a nice breakfast, right? And then you do your work, do your activities, come home, and it's like setting limits on things. So there's a thing we have to have things within parameters. So it's like, so you're going to answer your WhatsApp, your Line, your Telegram, whatever it is. So set a time on it. It's like, okay, I've got 45 minutes to do my social media. You're not 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. It's like, I've got this period of time where I'm allowing myself to chat with my friends, laugh at funny clips, watch a kitten video, whatever it is. But you have it within parameters. Okay, this is the amount of time you have to do this. And you can allow yourself to enjoy it, a bit of distraction, a bit of humor, a bit of entertainment. But when it's time to do the chanting and the meditation before sleeping, you have to do it. So it's like giving yourself parameters, giving yourself a healthy container for your own self-interest. Very important with these portable devices, how much time can be lost on entertainment distraction without people even realizing how many hours are going by. So set some healthy boundaries. They are addictive. They were designed to be addictive. So I think it's really important to recognize that. And so try to relate to them as an addiction. It's like, okay, I know I have this addiction. I think it's really important to be truthful about it. I know I have this addiction. It's marketed to us as convenient. Okay. But also we all spend more time on it than we should. So we understand that it's an addiction. Well, I was interesting. I listened to an interview with Robert Kennedy Jr. a month or so ago, and he was talking about presidential candidate in America, and he was talking about his addiction as a younger man. And he said one of the worst parts of addiction is not being able to keep contracts with yourself. It's like you set a resolution, you set an aspiration, and you just can't do it. It's like for the drug addict, I'm not going to do it anymore, and they do it again. And it's probably similar with porn addiction. People have to be careful with that as well. And violent computer games, so movies, whatever it is, music. If there's something that you're doing that's taking a lot of your time and distracting you from, keeping you from doing the wholesome and skillful things you want to do, it's good to sometimes acknowledge, like Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm so-and-so and I have a problem. I'm spending too much time on my phone. I'm doing too much of this. I'm doing too much of that. It's just good to be truthful and understand that you're in good company, because that's most people these days. So it's like we have incredibly powerful technology that if we know how to use it, it's skillful. Like right now, people are listening to Dhamma on a kind of a, we're using the internet skillfully right now. I don't know what you're going to do when Ajahn shuts up and you go on to the next thing. Who knows what you're going to do? But hopefully you do something skillful. And that's the amazing thing. It's like the quality of Buddhist teachings that are available, the books, the Dhamma talks, the archives, and in different traditions. Incredible, amazing. But how much people really have the discipline to focus properly and really study it and really benefit from it, rather than getting distracted. So yes, parameters around distraction and entertainment, what we consume with our minds, and then disciplines around how many sessions of practice you will do. And we just have to be strict with ourselves. And as a gift to your future, this life and your future lives, we all have to do this. And, discipline requires a certain amount of forcing yourself, and that's unpleasant. Just been on retreat And one of the things I did while I was on my retreat, I did 60,000 mantras. So I had to do 7,000 mantras a day. And okay, I've got to go back on the walking path. I've still got 3,000 to do. I've got to do it until I'm finished. And so there's a certain amount of forcing yourself. But what happens is if it's a skillful discipline, you force yourself, you don't feel like chanting, you go to your shrine and you go, and halfway through your chanting, you start to feel good. I don't feel like meditating, but you meditate anyway. 20 minutes into it, you feel calm and peaceful. It's very important that you train yourself to notice how you feel afterwards, not how you feel at the beginning. Because this is when we see, when you get up from your meditation pillow, does the mind feel more calm? Do you have more clarity? Are you in a better state than you were half an hour ago? Probably 9 times out of 10 you are. We have to really train ourselves. Like, I don't want to do it. All this Buddhist practice I'm forcing myself to do all this stuff. Can't have any fun anymore. Don't believe that mind state. Believe, notice the one halfway into the meditation session. Notice the one after the meditation session. How long does that feeling of being a little brighter, a little lighter, a little more calm, how long does that linger after the session? Notice that. And then we have to work with the resistance. It's going against the tendency towards sensuality is hard. But peacefulness is more pleasant than sensuality if we can incline the mind to experience it, so it's worth it. For great efforts. The effort to increase, the effort to let go, the effort to maintain. What's the other one, JC? Buddhist scholar? Testing you.
To arouse the unarising.
Yes, the unarising of that which is goodness that has not yet arisen. We put forth effort into doing that. Sadhu. It's a path of effort, which brings great joy. People look depressed. It's a path of effort. I'm looking at these depressed faces. Effort that brings peace and joy and insights and jhanas and jnanas and parinibbanas. It's all going in a good place.
Question for the Ajahn. May I know if the feelings of intuition is the same as what we call gut feelings, and whether we can trust our intuition or intention?
It's tricky. In our minds, we have a lot of phenomenon banging around. And as we having a good intuition and some kind of a connection with your intuition and your gut feelings is important. And the more practice we do, probably it gets clearer, that kind of, but can we trust it? Not entirely, because the problem with, the problem that we have as not fully enlightened beings is that our mind is affected by greed, hatred, and delusion. Delusion is a moha. The problem with delusion is that we don't know we're deluded. That's the thing about delusion. We are deluded. And some of the energies in the mind delude the mind. Delusion often has a certain quality where we would feel right. And we might be completely deluded. So I know that everyone else should keep the 5 precepts, but I know for myself, for my journey, I need to have this affair. It's like, I just know because this is my soul partner. This is the real one. This is what's right for me. If I truly love myself, I'm going to allow myself to love this other person's partner. No. But that feeling can be very compelling. And so because greed and aversion, this person, somebody needs to show them. Somebody needs to show them what they've done is wrong. Somebody needs to stand up to them. This person needs to be taught a lesson. That's the right thing to do. Pick up your machete, march out the door. No. But it felt really right when you're angry and the mind was deluded by self-righteousness. So, yeah, when we practice generosity and we practice keeping ethical precepts and we meditate more, we will get more of a sense of what intuition is. And we will also have more, it's like it has a smell. Wholesome qualities, unwholesome qualities, neutral qualities, they have a smell, they have a feeling texture. You'll know something might be coming in the mind. I really need to do this. This is right. But there'll be another part of you saying, no, you're justifying something unskillful because you want to do it. Does that more truthful, does that truth discerning awareness and a sense of integrity that comes from being committed to being ethical? There's another part of the mind which is like, no. And so that's a gut sense and gut intuition. So it takes quite some time for that clarity to. I was talking with an old student who's been meditating for 20 years, but unfortunately, before he was meditating, he was taking drugs and alcohol for 30 years. And he's saying he's only now feeling at the age of 66 a sense of a real sense of clarity that truly recognizes when his thoughts are unwholesome. So 20 years into practice, but he complicated matters by doing activities that increase the level of delusion in his younger years. So it's taken quite some time for that cloud to dissipate. And for those of you who found practice earlier, who've been good with your precepts, hopefully sense of clarity and recognizing the nature and the quality of your thoughts will be faster. So yeah, but there's really something to it. So we can't distrust. Yeah, it's a matter of paying attention. I've told the story several times when I was in Ladakh and supposed to be somewhere for 5 days and had a strong feeling just to leave, and it was a very gnawing, nagging feeling. And a mudslide closed the road. We left after 2 days instead of saying 5 days, and a mudslide closed the road 2 hours after we left that valley. And so it's like there's some times when your intuition is apparently when the World Trade Towers were attacked in America. Apparently there could be up to 5,000 people going to work on that day. And apparently on that day, like a really high number of people just didn't go to work. Like a lot of people must have had a feeling, don't go, don't go. Obviously, a lot of people did go. Disastrous consequences, but much, much more people than normal didn't go to work that day. It's very interesting. Many of them probably just had a feeling, don't go, don't go, don't go. So yeah, we have to listen, we have to pay attention and check our intentions. And your sense will get you. Not everybody. Some people are more sensitive. Some people are more empathic. But for myself, my intuition, I always had a pretty good one, and it's got sharper, I would say, as the years and decades of practice have increased. So, all the best. Please do everything you can to increase clarity and sensitivity, and please avoid things that generate clarity and increase delusion.
Ajahn, next question. Dear Ajahn, do you believe in the law of attraction? Meaning if we think of something often, then we will get it. Thank you.
I think there was that movie and that book some time ago, right, called The Secret. And people think that it's about, if you focus on what you want, and it's like a sense of, what do they call, positive affirmation, like visualize yourself being where you want to be and making the affirmations. And I think there's some value to it, but I also think it's very dangerous. So there's a sense of I have a right to experiencing my fullest happiness, and I will manifest this now for myself. Okay, so firstly, there's a lot of self there, right? Big sense of self, big sense of entitlement, possibly a lot of greed. And then you're deluding yourself by saying it's my right, it's my birthright. At the same time, for any goal that we have, we do have to imagine that we can achieve it, it's like, so there is some value within parameters. We do have to believe in our potential, and we do have to affirm. It's an interesting thing in the Vajrayana practices where a person can visualize themselves as an enlightened Buddha. It's very interesting. It's called the skillful means. It's called the resultant vehicle. They take the result as the object. So it's like, well, they describe the Theravada as the causal vehicle. And we sow the causes. And so I think every now and then visualizing yourself as a Buddha is a good thing to do. It's like, you kind of imagining yourself to be a completely deluded being with lots of faults and always beating yourself up. There's certain limitation, has certain limiting effect on the mind. So every now and then, imagine yourself as a Buddha who's fully enlightened and fully purified, radiating loving kindness throughout all the universes. Great. It's a nice balance to thinking you're the worst, most deluded person with the slowest progress in the universe. It's a nice balancing kind of activity to do sometimes. And yes, there's a value to it, but we want to be careful not to be increasing self, not to be increasing a sense of having rights to like enormous abundance. Lord Buddha explains that, contentment is one of the greatest blessings. So, and contentment doesn't come from finally being the one that owns everything. Contentment comes from being okay with what you have and being able to share it. So, in terms of, can it attract things? Yeah, I think it can. Another thing to understand is if you're making positive affirmations, I will manifest this, I will manifest this, I have this new job. And if you get it, it's not just because of your positive affirmations and your visualizations and because of the secret. It's because you're cashing in some of your merit. It's like, if you got it, you had the merit to get it. Merit was often previously generated from past generosity, selfless acts, kind acts, giving to others, spreading loving kindness to others. You didn't get it because you visualized yourself as being extra wonderful, extra special, having rights granted by the universe. So you don't want to develop more ego, more narcissism, more competitiveness. You have to have some sensitivity. What are the things I'm doing, cultivating in my mind? How is it affecting my mind? And yes, focus, believing in your potential, affirming, encouraging yourself to achieve your goals, all skillful. We understand that the real thing that brings our goals to fruition is good effort and good karma. We're living in a karmic universe. Whatever we want, we have to sow the causes. And if anybody gets something and it appears to be fast and easy, it's because of hard work they did previously. And if some people, rich people, very powerful people, causing enormous harm in the world, it's still the case that they were very generous in the past. They would not have had the power and influence and abundance if they had not been. Unfortunately, Lord Buddha describes when he was contemplating his liberation after his enlightenment, he was watching beings. He says, very few beings make it to this other shore. They're all running upwards and downs on the other shore. So it's not uncommon for a person to be very generous and very diligent and wholesome and have human births, heaven births, get deluded, become mean, get greedy, go back to hell. That's the traveling up and down on the other shore, on this shore. So energies delude the mind. People can become deluded. That we have to be careful who we spend time with, what we expose our minds to. And so, yes, it's always the same answer in a way. Generosity, virtue, effort, mental cultivation. I suppose also like in terms of attraction, like being really paranoid about something, being really frightened of something, that can also attract things, right? There's really some truth to that. If you're really, really, really scared of ghosts, you'll probably meet more ghosts. You know, people who aren't scared of ghosts. So you think of David, you believe in Devas and you think of Devas, The Visuddhimagga describes that those who think of devas with affection become, the devas develop affection for them. That's interesting. So you don't want to see ghosts, you want to see devas, you have to think about devas. So dedicate merit to the devas.
Thank you so much, Ajahn.
You're welcome. Nice to see you. I painted my 100th water painting of lotuses. Speaking of discipline, I decided 11 months ago that I was going to develop some skill doing water paintings of lotus. Do you have that number 100 one, JC? Is it close by? I mean, you can tell me whether you think I developed any skill. It's interesting, like we need to learn. I'm over 50 now, and it's good. People need activities to engage their brain, to keep the brain healthy. And I think some of these artistic endeavors can be good as, what do you call it, anti-Alzheimer practice. Kind of people need to keep developing new faculties and new abilities, keep the brain kind of, and I think the kind of left-right brain thing as well, like arty things can be quite helpful. Gardening as well, that kind of stuff. But I also think maybe I had this strong feeling I was always like getting something out of my system. I have a feeling I've painted lotuses in past lives. There's something about this certain amount of energy behind it, like that I managed to paint 100 paintings of lotuses within 11 months. But I did do so. I would like to say that I did continue with my meditation. I didn't do it instead of meditation. I just it was a year where I didn't have a building project or a retreat or a pilgrimage. So it just opened up as an opportunity. And when I look at the 6 months coming up, if I'm still alive, there's more activities. So it probably won't be as much opportunity. But I did enjoy it. I did enjoy developing skills, and probably keep doing it a bit less, but keep doing it. Do you have number 100, JC? There we go. Nice white lotus. Yes. Now I can do different lotuses. A lotus that takes 3 hours, a lotus that takes 7 hours, a lotus that takes 12 hours, or a lotus that takes 25 hours. This one took 12 hours. Yeah. It's about 40 by 60 centimeters. With water paints, developing that kind of sense of shading, you have to wait for one layer to dry and then build up another layer. And it takes quite a bit of effort, quite a bit of patience. But I do like this one. Bit of a forest monk robe color in the background.
Yeah, that's a really nice one. This 40 times 60 is actually very big. It's a lot of painting. Yeah,
that's part of why it takes so long. Yeah, it's a big thing. And on my website, in the gallery section, you go to the gallery section of Peace Beyond Suffering, there are 12 lotus paintings to download for free in high resolution. If anybody wants to stick one on their wall, or if anybody wants one as their screensaver on their phone, you can look at it and remind yourself. Ajahn actually says not to waste too much time on my phone. Cultivate my pure white lotus in my heart. So I'm happy. Been talking about being generous, so I'm very happy to. Of course, people offered me all of the materials. Sadhu, thank you for that. Now I can offer you the, there we go, lotus art, top one. Down at the bottom of the page. There we go. If you click the box, high res, down the bottom, it will come up as a high resolution picture. You may download it. Yeah, do that one, number 11. I want to see number 11.
Okay.
I did this one on the Moon Festival day when Chinese people eat mooncakes. There we go, nice white one. So
my gift like to you,
as well. I know not everybody appreciates lotus water painting as much as I do, but in case you do, I offer these to you, my gift. May you have beautiful screensavers and beautiful minds too.
Sadhu. Thank you, Prajan.
Okay, good to spend time with you all. Please take care.
Thank you so
Next
much,
time,
Prasajan.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Joyce.